So, one of the more exasperating parts of my career is I know that people have the potential to make millions and millions and millions of dollars. And it's actually like super simple stuff that you can possibly do to make these millions and millions and millions of dollars. But the fact is nobody's ever willing to make them, right? Like make these sort of simple kind of little things, and it's pretty exasperating to see them. To give you an example, right? There's uh, multiple ways to sort of do this, but just investing 15% of everything that you ever make into index funds, and I talked to some some people very recently that were very knowledgeable about the finance literature. And I was like, has that changed? Is there anything new about just investing in basic index funds? And no. And this is coming from the University of Chicago that is saying this. This is not known for the irony is that basically what the recommendation is coming from the University of Chicago is to be like almost socialist with that. And we think that that is like the center of capitalism and whatnot. But what I'm getting at is there's some really small things. 15% or everything you ever make goes into index funds or long-term mutual funds that have a very good track record for a very long time. And what you're doing with the mutual funds is you're just inflating the risk that you have just a little bit relative to the market, just a little bit to get a little bit more benefit from that. Some of them can do that. It's more risky, means that you can lose it, but at the same time, index funds are really the key sort of, it's the best we could possibly do. So um, there's that. There's, doing little subtle things like going for walks every day. I know that that might not necessarily equate to, you can't see that right now in terms of, does that equate to millions of dollars? Yes, in terms of you're going to probably be a more steady person. Now, this is a little more, this is a speculation. The investing into the 15%, that is concrete research. That is just, I mean, there's mountains of research at this moment now. It's almost like a fact in finance. Um, and which, like, calling something a fact is very uncomfortable for me to say, because as a scientist, we don't call anything facts. So, you know, um, what doing things like going for walks, you can be a more stable person. You're more likely to, live longer, get some benefit from living longer. You're more likely to be healthier. You're more likely to have all of these positive benefits from it. It's a very subtle, tiny little thing, going for a walk or getting, a moderate amount of exercise, whatever that is, on a regular basis. So if you don't like walking, you could do something else, but it's got to be a moderate amount of exercise. Moderate to, every once in a while, it's sort of high bouts of exercise. That having a hobby where you're reaching out and getting opportunities, and pursuing those things. And preferably, I would love to see, and this is where you can get crazy amounts of opportunities doing that digitally, showing it off, doing like podcasts and YouTube shows and all those things, because those have an unbelievable amount of longevity and they stay for a long time. There's videos out there from 20 years ago that are still, people are watching, and you're getting your name out there. So there's opportunities from all these things that are just pretty enormous, and yet we overlook them. We think that it's not going to happen to us. It's too hard to do. Why would I ever invest in something like that? Why would I spend the time? Like all of these stupid human excuses that we have, like stupid, they're real, very real, very important human excuses. But they're still excuses at the end of the day. Like, um, the excuse is I don't have enough money to invest in mutual funds. Okay, all right. Well, granted, you might not. Well, let's start with something smaller. Instead of the 15% today, why don't you go for the next 3 months, invest 1%? So that means instead of eating, um, craft dinner, you make it in terms of let's just buy the macaroni ourselves, and we will make our own thing using the macaroni instead of the craft dinner or the macaroni and cheese box. The the what I'm talking about, the the dinner that is macaroni and cheese that comes in the box. So we call it craft dinner in Canada. Nobody else calls it that. So there's all these kind of really subtle things that you can possibly do, and yet you're not going to do it, right? So it's easy to see in university, for example, don't smoke cigarettes and don't do those vaping things, right? Like really subtle things, but you're still going to be encouraged to do it, and you're going to want to do those particular things, right? There's all these little subtle things that you can possibly do that not only save you money, but add to your life in many positive ways. And yet we choose not to do them because we think that they're too hard, or, all of these things that go on in our life. And I want you to sort of rethink some of these things and see how you could do it to the smallest possible. Okay, so instead of thinking, I am going to quit cigarettes today or quit vaping today, well, don't friggin' quit those vaping today. Like, go from, say, you do it 5 times. I don't want you to go to like, one, that's dumb. Go to like, do it. So you're doing it 5 times today, do it 4, or do it 4 today and 5 tomorrow, whatever is sort of appropriate. And you do that, and you do that subtly for a long time. You can slowly wean yourself off to get to there, but you're not going to do it because you think that you can't do it. And there's all these you're going to come up with every under excuse under the moon to not do these things. And, the reality is you just don't want to do it. Right. And until you choose to do it, until you actually want to do it and to do these things, to pick up a book about personal finance, a subtle personal finance books. I'm a big fan of Dave Ramsey, other than the fact I am not a fan of his political views. I'm also not a fan of the sort of religious views, which kind of intertwine. So I stopped listening to him a few years ago. But those that the general behavior behind it is actually really positive. Or Susie Orman, right? Generally is pretty positive in terms of getting you. I'm not as big of a plant and sort of in favor of Susie Orman because she's a little bit more flexible with debt. But there's lots of things like that you can do. Read The Wealthy Barber, great book. It's one of the reasons why I actually got into to do business education. I found out I really liked that stuff. I found it's interesting, right? There's all these little tiny subtle things that you can do that are not big. They're not hard to read. In fact, you could probably, I'm sure there's picture books out there that you can get that are maybe 20 pages long that will teach you how to do these things and what it actually means. So I just want you to start, thinking about this. How can you possibly change to do some really good things in your life? All right, take care and have a wonderful day.